that did, it shifted all the events, times, and schedule.
Right.
But they forgot to realize that we are on a chartered plane. We have a certain time we have to leave.
Right.
So, and everybody who was leaving had to, so everything was moved and everything was pushed, not normal.
Right.
Because a lot of the races were rushed.
Everything was pushed around.
Pushed around and rushed, just trying to make sure they get it done after that.
Right.
They was going to shut it down, but they decided not to.
So the mood, you really didn't even have a chance to digest anything because you guys were just wondering when's
What's
my
next?
next race.
When your next race is and what's going to happen.
Right. How do I get home? Like just everything was just messed up at that point.
It was kind of screwy. It was kind of messed up, and it affected how a lot of stuff happened.
Okay.
Because to get to the story of the 4x4 relay, and it happened to a little. Well, I think the 100 wasn't affected by that because I think that was before they broke in.
Okay.
But the 4x4 was affected because of the schedule, and they had a protest of the first and second runners, Vince Matthews and Wayne Collette. They went 1-2 in the finals. They should have went 1-2-3.
In the
400.
Okay.
They should have won 1-2-3. John Smith, who if you know, he's the
Right.
coach, and now was in the favorite to win when he won the Olympic trials. When he was in the Olympics trials, he got hurt prior to the Olympics, but he made it all the way to the finals on a hurt leg. He got to the finals and pulled up in the first curve because he couldn't finish.
Right.
And so the race was over, and if you ever been to watched the Olympics, the guys come back for the ceremonies. But normally, when you see it on TV, it might have been 2 hours ago.
Right.
It might have been.
It's tape delayed.
It's tape delayed, but it is also, it takes a period of time because you got to go get drug tested.
Right.
And then they have to change uniforms. You can't wear the same uniform that you ran in.
Right.
You're supposed to wear. You had a ceremony uniform, and you had a track uniform. The ceremony uniform is the one you take to the finals. If you win or place in the top 3, you put on this and you come back out to the ceremonies after you get tested.
Right.
So what they did is they rushed them into testing and rushed them back out, which they don't normally do. It would take a while. So they was rushed out. The whole contingent, I was in because I want to watch the race, I was in the contingent with the United States athletes. We were sitting in a section. Track and field is like a circus, as you know.
Right.
There could be something going on here and there, but you don't know what's happening if you're not watching for certain things. So when you hear, sometimes you hear the national anthem of the favorite country that won, athlete that won. We heard the national anthem, but it took us about 3 bars before we even knew it was being played. Because nobody stood up or did anything. When you hear a whistling, that's booing. So we started hearing all these whistling. So we said, oh, what's going on? Because it has to be something bad because in the United States you hear booing.
Right.
But over there you hear whistling, that means there's something bad.
Okay.
So we had to figure out what was going on. So the word got back that there was something going on in the ceremonies. What happened was Vince Matthews and Wayne Collette was on the #1 podium, undressed, because they had rushed them out and they didn't put their uniform on. They had their shoes off because they just finished the race. You just finished running and winning the Olympics.
Right.
So you didn't have
They're
time.
still catching their breath.
You haven't had time to catch your breath and recover and feel the whole gist of it. So there on this podium, Vince invited Wayne up to the top on the #1 spot. The national anthem was being played. They were talking. So they thought it was a protest.
Gotcha.
Which is basically a protest, not a protest, but it's not following the protocol.
Right.
And so
Because you guys had rules in place.
you had rules in place
of what
to
you were
say
supposed to
you're
do.
supposed to do. You're supposed to stand at attention and listen whichever way the flag was,
Right.
and listen to the national anthem of the country. If you was in second or third, you listened to Russia
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
But they didn't, so they booed. They were going to be kicked out of the Olympics. Originally, all they had to do was to apologize. Bundage was going to let them back.
And who's that?
He was the IOC leader.
Okay.
He was going to let them back in. But the United States said no, because they embarrassed the country.
And this is their 400 runners.
There's two of them.
Right.
Now
Your top two minus
top
the guy
two.
that was
okay,
supposed
you got three hurt. You got
Right.
three gone. So
Right.
you got three left. You have 6 alternates, which after this started in '76. It changed. They changed the rule. The rule is you enter 6 guys for the 4x1 and the 4x4. Only those 6 athletes can run.
Right.
And there's no switching one guy to run in the prelims. They only can run the prelims and
Right.
the finals.
Right.
You have to pick 4 of them out of the 6.
Right.
But only those 6. We had several guys that could run on the relay. We tried a substitute. They wouldn't let us substitute.
So
All we needed was one more guy.
So your fastest guy goes down in the finals with a pulled hamstring.
You got
Your next 2 fastest guys inadvertently get
Kicked out.
disqualified because of being rushed and there just being a misunderstanding.
yeah.
Maybe some
Well,
communication
they
error.
misunderstanding, but in their eyes, they still consider it. You can consider it in their eyes a protest, but it wasn't actually a protest like '68 with
Right.
John.
It wasn't the fist in the air.
Yeah, it wasn't that blatant that they was going to do it. Like
Right.
that. But
So-
they took it as being
So that's your 3. So that only leaves you with
he
3.
was with 3.
And were you slated to run on the?
I was
the
slated to
4x4?
run in John's spot because they didn't want to take a chance
Okay.
for him because he was hurting all the
So
way
you were
through.
the number 5 guy.
I was the number 5. I finished 5th in the finals of
Okay.
the Olympic trials.
Gotcha.
So that gave me the
number 5 spot. So you guys then don't even get to run.
We don't get to go to all we needed to do is go to the prelims.
Right.
That's all we wanted to do is get to the prelims, hoping that John would get healthy enough.
To make it into the finals.
If we could have got one more to the finals, but they wouldn't let us substitute. All we needed was one guy.
Right.
They
And,
wouldn't let us. We had-
USA had the talent there. I mean,
Oh yes, we had the 200 guy, Larry Black, 43 in college.
right.
But he wasn't a quarter miler, but he ran on their relay team in North Carolina Central. But he'd run 43.
So
We had several guys go, all they could run is 45.
so
all we
what?
needed.
So your number 5 Olympic trial time. What was that?
I ran 45-1.
Okay.
Lee Evans was 4th. The Olympic champion world record holder was over the 4th guy.
Right.
That's what only thing he came to do was run the 4x. He's Olympic champion
Right.
in '68 with 2 gold medals. And the only thing he came to do was run the 4x4. He didn't get to run. And you talking about somebody mad?
Oh, absolutely.
He was.
Because I mean, that's 4 years of training
It's 4 years of training.
of just
That's 8 years
to
of
go
what
down the
he's done.
drain from
All
just
it-
craziness, just pure craziness.
All we did was wanted to get there to run. All I wanted to do was run it. Whether I got a medal or not, I wanted to. We ran a pre-Olympic meet before the Olympics started. They had some countries run. We ran certain races. We ran a 4x4. I ran 44.9. I was ready to run. I was working hard to run the relay. And that happened. But from that point on, from '76, you can take any runner on your Olympic team and run your prelims and the finals if they're not in the top 4. So in Olympic trials, you got to finish the top 4 automatically, puts you on the relay.
Right.
Now, you can have a 6th and a 7th finisher that finished 5th and 6th. You can take all of them if you want, or you can take somebody that's off the team. if in that situation, if I was in '76 Olympic team, or right now, if I ran on the prelims and I don't run the finals, whatever place they get, I get a medal because I ran the prelims.
Right.
So back then, only those six could run, nobody else.
Right.
It didn't matter. They changed a few rules, but it's.
But that's.
Other than that, that was a disappointment. But I enjoyed the experience of being at the Super Bowl of track and field.
Right.
Even though world championship is a big thing too nowadays.
Right.
But we didn't have a world championship.
The Olympics were it.
That was it. But I ran on several national teams for the United States. I ran against the Russians several times. I had dual meets against the Russians in the United States, indoors and outdoors. I was a representative on each one of them. I went to Europe back in '69. Me and Lee Evans went 1-2 every meet we ran over in Europe. They took a national team. We ran against Germany. We ran against England. We ran against an all-star team for a whole summer.
Okay. That Olympic team had some of the biggest names on it of what we know today, the famous names.
You left some off.
I'm
just saying there was some.
And I want you to tell me who those are, because I have the ones that I know is Coach Bowerman. The
Mr.
future,
Shoe.
Yeah, Mr. Shoe Man.
I went to his first shoe store.
Right.
In Eugene, Oregon.
Which was Blue Ribbon Sports.
Blue Ribbon Sports, above in an attic.
Right.
In an attic. Strange thing about it, I went there once. Went there to visit it, but I wasn't the elite athlete. I was with an elite athlete that got all the good stuff. But there, he got stuff, I didn't get nothing.
Right.
I run the prelims, the semis of the trials.
In Oregon.
In Oregon. When my semis beat Lee Evans, all of a sudden I get a knock on the door. Now I get all this stuff because they won't knock you in the finals.
Right. So
that's how it works.
Right. You do good, they give you stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But back then, if I was doing what I was doing back then, what the kids are doing today, I wouldn't be sitting right here. No, but they were giving away a lot of money back then. I mean, you talking about people getting deals here.
Right.
You can get you can drop out of high school and get a pro contract.
Right. Not then.
Not then.
No,
but they tried it.
But giving you shoes was,
back then getting shoes, clothes, stuff like that was good. They sent it to your college, wherever you were.
Okay.
I wound up getting shoes shipped to me.
Okay.
But that was
so it was an endorsement deal while you were in college, but it wasn't an endorsement deal.
It wasn't an endorsement deal. So I gave most of them away to the kids on the team, but
gotcha.
But it wasn't a totally endorsement. But
so
most of you got while you were not in college, you were traveling somewhere.
Some other big names, and I'm more of a distance person, so.
Oh, you have.
But Prefontaine.
Yep.
You have Vincent Matthews, Wayne Collette, Robert Taylor, Dave Waddle, Jim Ryan, Frank Shorter, all those very well-known names. So what are the names that I'm missing on this list?
Oh, let me see. You're missing. Who do you know? John Smith.
John
Smith.
You
probably know as a coach. What's his name? Davenport.
Yep.
Willie Davenport, great hurdler. Ralph Boston.
And
you had you don't even, the women were just phenomenal. There were some great women athletes. There were some great athletes who was on the women's team.
Yeah. Who would you say was the best at that time on the women's team?
Davis. Probably one of the better women at that time. I have a lot of stuff about them. I just don't have it to show you right now. But there's some outstanding athletes on the team. My roommates were Gerald Tinker, Fred, what's his name? Larry Black. These are two kids from Miami.
Okay.
They were from Miami. Larry Black and Gerald Tinker was probably two of the biggest name sprinters in South Florida.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, Gerald went to Memphis, and Larry Black went to North Carolina Central.
Okay.
Dr. Leroy Walker was the head coach at the time of North Carolina Central, and he had a bunch. He had a kid from Africa that was. We were afraid that's the only team that would have beaten us. They won the race.
They had a good stack.
They
team.
They won the race, but they'd have given us. They had several good kids on their team from Kenya.
Okay.
I saw the basketball players.
Oh yeah.
I was there when they tore up the room, tore up the place.
What was that?
Well, the basketball team lost the gold medal
Okay.
on a. Back then, I guess you would call back right now. You call it a do-over. Stop the clock and add seconds.
Right.
They added seconds on the clock. The United States already had the lead, and they added seconds. The guy threw a half-court pass, and the big guy they had turned around and bumped it in. But they should not have had the extra time. And they told they would not even go get their medals.
The silver medals. And now this was before Dream Team, so it was
It was
amateur
before the
athletes.
Dream. These are all college athletes.
Right, it's all amateur college
These are
athletes.
college athletes, yeah.
And they were not excited about
They
the
were
added
not-
seconds.
No.
So, is there any of your teammates from either the Pan Am or the Olympic Games that you like keep in touch with regularly?
Regularly, I keep in touch with a few guys that I see through my profession. I've seen through my profession. I just don't communicate as far as word of mouth.
Gotcha.
I see John Smith
Every
and
once in a
Lee
while.
Evans. Lee Evans is I contacted him because of he's on Facebook. He asked me to be on Facebook, so
Okay.
I requested. But Lee Evans and a few others. But most of them I met through my coaching career.
Okay. After the Olympics, did you compete in any more races?
I competed all the way up to 74.
Okay.
Like I said, back then we weren't getting a lot of money when you dedicate 4 years.
Right.
College was fine because I was there.
Right.
I was getting 3 meals
But
a day.
you graduated 71.
Yeah, but I was in graduate school.
Okay.
I was still in school so I could train.
Right.
And that year that I did the Pan Ams, the year that I did the Olympics, I was still in graduate school.
Okay.
And when I went to the Olympics, I spent 1/2 semester trying to get a job.
Okay.
I spent a half semester in Washington, D.C., training for the indoor season. And I spent 1 more year finishing my graduate degree at Murray State and training and running. I ran a couple indoor meets, a couple outdoor meets. When I finished, after the Olympics, I was trying to make a decision what I was going to do, either go back to graduate school or keep training. And for host, I think it's that half a year I was training in Washington, D.C., which I don't know if you know, you probably know Brooks Johnson.
Yes.
He was my coach for that year, for 2 years.
Okay.
I ran for his club for doing the Olympics trials. And
Which club was that?
Sports International at the time.
Okay.
That's what the name of the team in Washington, D.C. He had several good athletes girls athletes on the team. I trained there for half a year, and I told him they had me working at the National Cathedral, or St. Albans, which is a part of the National Cathedral. I was teaching PE at the time, and trying to get a job. Wasn't making a lot of money, so living with in a house that he owned without have to worry about paying anything. But without any money, without anything to do, I decided to go back to graduate school.
Okay.
I went back to Murray in that following spring, and I trained for about a year and ran a couple meets, and then it became the point you can't live.
You had to make a
You got
decision.
to make a decision. I wasn't making any money because there wasn't a lot of money.
There wasn't money contracts for track.
There wasn't a lot of money given out, so
Yeah.
you have to be a real big name to
Right.
negotiate anything. I was okay, but just getting free flights, motels, and maybe a little stipend here and there, that's not paying a lot of bills.
No. Still got to eat.
So I decided to go back to graduate school and finish graduate school, and I got hooked on being a teacher.
Okay. You retired 74? retired from running?
I actually retired from running in '74
Okay.
because I couldn't see 2 more years of trying to train for '76. I
Right.
wanted to. I probably would have had an opportunity to make the team, but you got to be committed to.
You were ready to move on to that
Yeah,
next chapter.
I wanted something else
Okay.
because it became a business.
Right.
If you wasn't making what they wanted or doing what they wanted, you wasn't getting any money. Plane trips, motel.
Right.
That's
And it was all still amateurism at that time too.
yeah.
So you had to be
I
real
wasn't
careful
making,
with what you
wasn't
did.
making any money, so you wasn't making any money. So it was kind of rough.
So when you retired, what were your fastest times in the 400? Like, what's your career PRs in
My
the
career
events?
PR, 45-1 officially.
For the
That's my
440?
400. 20.8 in the 200. Well, back then we were running 200, 220s.
Right.
I actually ran a 100-yard dash in 9.6.
Okay. All right.
But remember, in the '70s we were running yards before we converted.
Right. You're running yards. You're also running.
But if you look at the times that I ran, say 45-1,
right.
440 yards. Compare that to what they're running now.
Yeah. It's
How much difference is that?
that's
It's
I
only
mean,
437 yards.
right.
So the '70s, what the guys were running are still comparable to what the guys are running now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, I would say more so back then, like they were probably more of an eye-opening time for the simple fact that you don't have the technology that we have today with
yeah.
the lighter uniforms, the lighter shoes, the synthetic tracks. I mean, it's crazy that we've added all this stuff and we've gotten faster. Like, I mean, we have faster athletes, but it's still.
But even now,
Even the time difference, it's still good.
If you go back and look at the finals of the Olympic trials in '72, 8th place was under 10 seconds.
Right.
And he didn't make the team.
Right.
And nobody in the Olympic trials, in the Olympics, ran that fast.
Right.
The 8th place person would have scored.
Right. Which is crazy.
We had 8 guys, and 4 of them got left. 5 of them got left home.
Right. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
5 of the best sprinters in the country got left home.
So, you retired. You go back to grad school. You retire from running. You go back to grad school. What led you to Florida?
What led me to Florida? I spent 5 years at the local high school. After I did graduate school and
Local high school up
in Murray.
Okay.
I did graduate school. I finished my graduate work part-time when I was working part-time. They offered me a full-time job, and I said, okay. So I took the coaching and teaching job at Murray High School. Helped coached, started my coaching on football. I did basketball and track. So we won a state championship in 1974. Had several kids go to state in track. And I had an opportunity. John Kraft, who was the Olympic triple jumper, was at Eastern Illinois. He's going to take a sabbatical to work on his doctorate degree. And contacted me, was interested in the job. So I took his place for 1 year. They wanted me to stay longer. But Illinois in the wintertime is not where I wanted to be. I grew up in Missouri, and I know what wintertime was.
A little cold.
But when you had the worst winter in 100 years, and you had snow on the ground, and you're trying to run in April, you can't run in April.
It's time to find somewhere else.
So I told him I either going to go to California or I'm going to Florida.
Okay.
So Jimmy Corns was on that last phase of his retirement. They offered me a job.
Jimmy Carnes when he was coaching at Florida?
He was coaching at Florida.
Okay.
He was going to be in the last year of his retirement, and offered me a job. I came down to Florida. I worked part-time with him and part-time with the University of Florida.
Working part-time with him, coaching or?
Coaching first.
Okay.
But he started Athletic Addict.
Okay.
in the mall.
Yep.
I worked in the mall in the athletic attic and coached at the university
Okay.
part-time
As an assistant.
as an assistant. And then when he retired, I got a job by Coach Benson,
Roy.
Benson.
Okay.
So I got a full-time job with him. So I
Where
stayed at UF.
Oh, okay. So he was coaching.
He was coaching
Okay.
UF, and I stayed with him till Coach, the next coach came. I stayed another 3 or 4 years, and then decided it wasn't for me.
Okay.
I wanted to give college a shot, and I have nothing against college. I would love to be as successful as some of the coaches are, but it wasn't for me because it's more recruiting the right athlete.
Right. Not necessarily developing.
Developing, he or she's coming with the talent. You just got to work with it, and you got to, with more technology you have right now with weightlifting and all that stuff, you get into it, yes. But I've, over 40-something years, I've enjoyed coaching young kids that never knew anything about track and field or any sport.
Right.
To watch them when their eyes open up that they just won their first race.
So how did you end up at Santa Fe High School?
After I left UF, looking for a job, excuse me, I got a job at Palaco
Okay.
right after Brahman left, Coach Brahman.
Okay.
He went to Seminole, and I just happened to apply for the job and stayed there for 4 years. Would have been there longer, but my wife kept wanting me to come because I lived in Gainesville.
Right.
And traveled to Palaco every day.
So that's what, an hour drive?
Hour drive every day.
Yep.
An hour drive back home, plus coaching.
Right.
So
Long hours.
sometimes I wouldn't get home till late. So
Right.
it was decision making. They wanted me back here in the county, but the county said there was no opening for me. There's no PE job or driver's ed jobs opening at the time. So that's what I wanted to be into. So she said, if you go to school and get certified, I had enough credits to get certified in math. So I got certified at Santa Fe Community College, took a couple classes, got a job, and then Santa Fe. When I was at Palaco, they encouraged me to come. One of the coaches over there I knew well wanted me to come
To Santa Fe.
to Santa Fe. And
Okay.
that's where I've been ever since.
So you've been coaching at Santa Fe for how long?
Well, actually, it's 30, I retired 30 years, so it's been 33 years.
33 years. That's awesome. But you were coaching before that, so
I got over 40-something years.
40 years of coaching, which is awesome. Growing up, did you have a favorite coach? Like, was there ever a coach
There
that
wasn't a per se coach other than my high school coach.
Okay. He was a pretty good influence.
He was a pretty good influence on me as what he coached a lot of my people in my family, football. He was basically a football track guy, but his main priority was football. But he was real good in track, and I really admired him. He convinced me because he convinced me that I was going to be real good and fought to get me to the Golden South. If you knew back then,
Yeah.
Not the Golden South, the Golden West.
Oh, okay.
Back then, that was the big meet.
Right.
The top 8 athletes in the United States go there.
Okay.
And so I got to
It
go
was a
there.
showcase event.
Yeah, I got to go there in Sacramento, California, and it was, I finished 4th in the 400.
Okay. Do you have any athletes that stand out from
I have
all
many,
40 years of coaching?
I have many. My first one would be Josh Jett. He was one of my first cross-country track runners that I had when I first went to Santa Fe.
Okay.
That was outstanding. He ran like 16:20, I think.
And
Back
3
then,
miles.
well, 3 miles. Well, they were running 3 miles. 3 miles.
Right.
Not 5Ks, 3 miles. And his sister-in-law, which he finally coached, is Brittany Swick, who ran 18.
For 3 miles also.
They were running. Santa Fe was what you call it, running 3 miles. That's when the girls moved up.
The girls moved up, I believe, in 2000 and No, in '98.
Yeah, that
when
was
the girls.
yeah.
started
She
running.
graduated in 2001.
Yeah.
That's when she did her senior year. She ran. She was at Buchholz's Classic, so it had to be when they were running 5Ks then.
Yeah.
Yeah, she ran 5K. She ran 18, and his wife. Actually, I've coached all these families there.
Right.
So his wife. This is that team right there plus the coach. That's the guy. He became my assistant.
Right.
They ran 9:30, but they ran 9:32.
Okay.
That at the time was the state record.
Okay.
It's been broken since then,
Right.
but they were the first to run
Awesome.
the state meet down in Coral Springs?
Coral Springs.
Yeah.
What year? 2000.
2001, they were runner-up in state.
Okay.
That's my team that was runner-up in state girls. The only girls team I've had.
Gotcha.
Girls team I had runner-up, but at Palaca I was runner-up in state my first year there.
Palaca has really good athletes
Very good athletes.
all the time.
All the time.
So.
Just no matter who the coach is.
Right.
You get the right coach. When I left them with a state championship team.
Okay.
They've had some good athletes come through there.
Awesome.
I had the first triple jumper ever go over 50 feet in the state.
At state meet?
At the state.
And that was with Palaca or Santa Fe?
Palaca.
Okay. You remember what year that was?
It's 80, be 84, 85. Ken Brahman's son.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
That's funny.
He's coaching the greatest athletes.
Right. Out at the training center.
Yeah. And I just want to give a shout out to Coach Holloway. I've known Mike since he first came to Gainesville.
Right.
When he was in junior college, Santa Fe Community College.
Right.
I knew then that his interest and his dedication was on top. Because he called me a lot of times when we started coaching at Buchholz. We talked a lot about, because he had several good athletes and he wanted to know how to coach them. Why is this not happening, And for what he's done,
so
I contributed to his success.
I know a little bit about Mouse, and yeah. I mean, from what I've heard, it sounded like he was very fresh when he came to Gainesville.
He was fresh as far as coaching.
Right. But he had the drive.
He had the drive.
And he wanted to do it, and he made it happen. And I mean, a lot of people would give up in a lot of situations, but I've heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that he had to work really hard and overcome a lot of things to get to where he is. Mm-hmm. And by doing so, he has now become the greatest coach in the country.
I can admit to, I've seen him suffer as far as trying financially. When you coach in track, trying to live off of supplements. You cannot do that as a coach.
Right.
You can't live off of I don't know what the supplements in Gilchrist County, but
no, the supplements are not very high anywhere really.
You can't make it.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a degree in teaching every day, I'm coaching free.
Right.
Because the money I get for coaching is nowhere compared to what the work we put in.
Right.
So if it wasn't for the degree and teaching, living off of that money, I couldn't live off a supplement. We couldn't pay a bill.
Right.
Because you only get it either at the end of the year, they gave it to you prorated. Who's gonna live off of $50?
Right. But he tried to do that for a while.
He tried to do that for a while. I tried to convince him you need to get into the system.
Right.
You have to get a job. He had several jobs, but you can't go and be a show-up coach.
Right.
And it's difficult to do.
Right.
And he managed. He had some great cross-country teams and great track teams.
Yeah.
But it's because he worked at it.
Right.
And but he was not a track coach when he came. He was an athlete.
Right. He's a hurdler.
He's a hurdler. He's pretty good, very good hurdler.
Right.
But he worked at I guess that once you have a goal, I guess you go after it. And I guess that's what he wanted to do. He was an assistant. He's assistant here, head here, assistant here. And he stuck along being at Florida, being an assistant for as long as he could do and learn a lot. He was willing to learn, and that pays off. And now he's one of the greatest coaches. Who coaches those kind of? Who gets those kind of athletes
Right.
to coach? You have to have a good relationship with them.
Well, is there anybody else you'd like to give a shout out to before we?
Scott.
Scott, your wife for
My
putting
wife,
up with you
yeah,
for.
my wife for putting up with me. But she says track is my second love,
Yeah.
and that's what I do.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to be here right now. I retired, but I can't. This is not what I'm built for.
You miss
I'm
the
not built.
track.
I'm not built for this.
I understand.
I'm not built for this. I got to have something to do in relationship to track.
Absolutely.
I'll do whatever I can, and I do it not because of me. This, like I tell the kids, these things hang on the wall.
Right.
Not one of them paid a bill yet.
No.
Because of it has, but not itself.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to do these interviews today, and I hope that everybody appreciates the time that you took with us today and the knowledge and the history. So I hope everybody can make sure to like and subscribe to this page, and hopefully you guys will enjoy more of these coming up. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.